That was quite the discussion, wasn't it? Before moving on to the next item on the agenda, I would like to share with you a little story. I had a colleague who hated waking up to go to work early in the morning. She always said that she wanted to pursue her passion, to be her own boss. And that's exactly what she did. She quit her job and started a successful small business. She took that risk and followed her passion. I called her to see how she was doing, and she said she has never been happier. Now she wakes up whenever she wants, things people do to get a little sleep. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that the ideas that we develop in our bedrooms or during coffee with friends may turn out to become a great business. There are people who turn their passion into successful startups. So our next item is a panel discussion on the futures of the SME sector in the Maldives, in which the panelists will discuss the potential growth sectors and the new financing options available, and also talk about how they envision the startup space to change in the next decade. For this panel discussion, we have a number of experienced professionals from related fields. The first panelist started her career with her love for product branding. Conceptualizing from scratch, she finally took the leap in December 2018 with the brand launch. She is an inspirational entrepreneur who has founded a brand of products which captures authentic traditional cuisine supplied throughout Maldives. Along with remarkable strength and confidence, most of all with passion for her work, she achieved striking experience. Yes, I'm talking about none other than Ms. Fathimath Reesha, Director of Warland Maldives Private Limited, founder of Authentic Maldives Delight and owner of Bread Concept Outlet. Next, we have with us MD of SDFC, Mr. Ahmed Zeenadh. He has over 15 years of experience in the banking and finance sector. He began his career at Maldives Finance Leasing Company and later joined Bank of Maldives in 2012 as Development Banking Officer, and gradually specialized in areas of development banking and SME finance. He held several positions in the Bank of Maldives, including head of SME banking and head of government loan schemes before moving to SME Development Finance Corporation in 2019 as managing director. He is an associate chartered banker from the Asian Institute of Chartered Banker. And finally, we have the managing director of BCC, Ms. Fazleena, who had a background in financial sector development and worked at the Maldives Monetary Authority from 2010 to 2019, concluding her tenure as the manager of financial sector development. During her time at the MMA, Ms. Fazleena dedicated her work towards the development of SMEs while facilitating access to finance for these enterprises. Ms. Fazleena completed a Master's of Commercial Law in University of Melbourne and is currently using her knowledge and experience in enhancing the SME sector in the Maldives. This exciting discussion will be moderated by founder and managing partner of Faris & Co., Mr. Ali Faris Mohamed himself. He has over 12 years of experience in the field of assurance, tax, and transaction advisory services. In addition, Ms. Faris is a tax advisor at SHC Law and Tax, one of the leading commercial law firms in the Maldives. Faris is a fully qualified member of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and holds a master's degree in finance from International Islamic University, Malaysia. So let's not keep this discussion waiting. Panelists, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum, and a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to our panel discussion, Future of SME Sector in the Maldives. My name is Faris Mohamed, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. I'm beyond honored to share this platform with the panelists today. We have Ms. Fazleena, Manager Director of Business Center Corporation, Mr. Ahmed Zeenadh, Managing Director of SME Development Financial Corporation, and Ms. Fathimath Reesha, Director at Maldives Private Limited. Before we begin our discussion on this very important topic, we would like to play a small video that we compiled for today's panel discussion, which will look at the SME sector, importance of it, and the functions of BCC and SDFC, and an introduction to Reesha's work.
In today's economic transformation, rethinking growth in the new economy, the role of SMEs has become more imperative. The SME Act and regulation classifies businesses into three categories: micro, small, and medium, based on the number of employees, total revenue, and net profit. Often referred to as the backbone and engine of any economy, SMEs make up 93% of the registered businesses in the Maldives. While larger businesses make millions in profit, smaller businesses provide more employment and job creation, playing a pivotal role in the social and economic development of the country. SMEs contribute significantly to the GDP and often complement larger sectors in the Maldives. Yet these businesses face numerous challenges, such as absence of adequate and timely banking and finance, limited capital and knowledge, non-availability of suitable and affordable technology, low production capacity, ineffective marketing strategies, inability to access new markets, constraints on modernization and expansions, non-availability of high-skilled labor at affordable costs, and various regulatory obstacles. To overcome these challenges, the government of the Maldives has undertaken two major initiatives for the development of the SME sector in the Maldives. They are the incorporation of the Business Center Corporation by a presidential decree and the incorporation and establishment of the SME Development Finance Corporation in the year 2019. Business Center Corporation, known as BCC, has successfully carried out several standout projects in its short existence. The Authentic Maldives initiative was launched to provide global market access for businesses and individuals producing authentic local products. Maldives Business Network is a business channel managed by BCC, which was launched on the social media platforms. The channel provides informative business news to improve business and financial literacy. Seed by BCC. The first ever co-work space was opened in Male to provide affordable office spaces and office amenities for entrepreneurs and startups. In line with its primary objective of creating an enabling and inclusive business environment for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, as of today, BCC has initiated over 30 business projects, established 13 business centers, engaged in over 5,000 business consultations, and trained over 4,500 individuals. The SME Development Finance Corporation, more commonly known as SDFC, is a specialized financial institution providing financial products and ancillary services to SMEs and entrepreneurial startups with the primary purpose of easing access to finance for SMEs. SDFC encourages and supports SME startups that contribute to the local community, and it strongly believes in inclusive economic growth for the well-being of the entire population. As of today, SDFC has approved funding up to 1.4 billion rupiah and dispersed funds close to 1 billion rupiah for the SME sector. 45% of these funds were sanctioned to priority groups, youth, women, and differently abled persons. And 21% of these loans were sanctioned to women-inclusive businesses. SDFC has financed businesses in 156 islands spanning all the atolls in the Maldives under its inclusive financing approach. One of the successful and exemplary SME entrepreneur in the Maldives is the founder of Maldives, Fathimath Reesha. Valam brings you two of the most undisclosed tastes in the Maldives, the Addu Bondi and the Kandamadumeta. Two of the most revered sweets in the country and arguably one of the best local delights you can find in the Maldives. Reesha is a visionary and innovative SME entrepreneur who started from humble beginnings to successfully launch and brand a product that we all would be proud of as Maldivians.
Thank you for that clip. I think we have learned some very useful information about the topic today and about the work that our panelist does. Now that you know a little bit about SME classification, I would like to ask the audience to raise their hands if you are representing an SME sector or if you're employed by an SME sector. See very few hands. SME is a very important sector in our society with 93% representation. So I would assume there would be more, but even then I think our topic today would be very useful for our audience. To start off our panel discussion, I would like to ask my first question to Ms. Fazleena. The theme for this year's forum is Economic Transformation, Rethinking Growth in the New Economy. In light of our theme and the topic for today, Future of the SME Sector in the Maldives, can you please tell us how the activities of BCC help to transform the economy through its initiatives for the development of the SME sector in the Maldives?
Thank you very much. Before I begin my answering the question that Mr. Faris has asked, I would like to thank the organizers of this forum and Auditor General himself for inviting us, people who actually take businesses forward, those businesses who are not considered by other people as productive. I would rather say if we ask anybody what is an SME, the most riskiest businesses that anybody would not want to invest in. Am I right? I think so. Yeah. So thank you very much for the organizers and the Auditor General for inviting all of us to this panel. And I think, Mr. Faris, I think half of my introduction has been covered in the video. But then let me introduce myself as the state-owned enterprise which actually works towards the private sector development. How is that for a start? The SOE, which works towards the development of the private sector. Yes, we worked with the MSMEs in the country, and BCC is trying to establish and promote promote an inclusive environment for all the MSMEs operating in the national economy. It's kind of intimidating, actually, to talk about this in an accountants forum. I think I'm not the only one intimidated. We have heard about this many times. But I think it is very clear from what BCC is trying to do here that we have several other infrastructures other than access to finance that is limiting the SMEs in this country. Hence, BCC is focused around, our objectives are mainly focused around trade facilitation and entrepreneurship development, finding market access to the people, and then giving advisory and consultancy on several aspects of starting up a business, ideation, going through the business cycle, the journey of a business, and then finally, if you need to wind up, I think, how to do winding up your business as well. And also we do outreach because we believe that the entrepreneurial mindset should start from a very young age. It should come from the educational sector as well. I think that is the reason why we have some failed MSMEs in our country as well. And I think this is globally, there will be a good statistics out there why SMEs do fail. And these are the areas that BCC actually works on. And then under the trade and trade facilitation and development, we are trying to establish workspaces so that the cost of startups would be reduced. I think you would have seen one of the most fanciest work of BCC. Seed by BCC is a co-working space that we have established so that startups and SMEs could actually come and work in an environment where they do not have to take up the startup cost of establishing a business, which means the real estate cost of this country is really high. So BCC tends to take in this cost so that these businesses might not fail in the future. So we are trying to bring up an inclusive environment so that we would like to see we have seen a lot of survivals, we have seen a lot of deaths. It breaks my heart to say this here because we would like to see these businesses survive because BCC is working towards these, trying to absorb some of these shocks and costs that they need to they need to actually take up during the journey of their businesses. If BCC can absorb these as a state-owned enterprise, I think the cost of products and services these small SMEs actually bring out to the market would be at a lesser cost, and their failure rate would also be less. Thank you.
Thank you, Fazleena. I can't stress enough how important of a work BCC is doing for the development of the SME sector, which is a really important sector for an economy to grow. The SMEs are truly the unsung heroes of our economy, even though we talk about most of the time about tourism and other sectors. All these sectors are heavily supported by SMEs for their operations. Moving on to my second question to Zeenadh. One of the biggest challenges that SMEs face is the issue of raising finance and capital. SDFC was formed in 2019 with one of the main objectives to solve this issue. How successful has SDFC been in overcoming the financial issue for the SME sector, and what are some of the major challenges and obstacles that you experience while dealing with the SME sector?
Thank you, Faris. And before I start, I would like to thank CA Maldives and Retired General Niazi for inviting me to the panel. This is a very important topic, and it's very dear to my heart. The things we need to know is there are basically three challenges when we want to talk about developing SMEs in the country. The first is access to finance. How to raise finance for a startup or to develop their business or expand their business or even day-to-day operations. The second is access to market. How do we sell the product that is produced by entrepreneurs like Reesha? The third one is financial literacy, improving financial literacy in the country. Literacy is generally low in the country. It's worse when it comes to accessing finance. I think the accountants here and the auditors here would know more about this. I will talk more about accessing finance. I think BCC is playing the role, doing a good job in providing access to markets and improving financial literacy in the country. So when it comes to identifying the challenges in accessing finance in the country, we have to talk about what are the issues that prevent SMEs from raising finance. One of the key issues is that I think our bankers here would agree that there is excess MVR liquidity in the country. But it is the banks, the commercial banks, see SMEs as high-risk investments. They don't really want to fund these businesses because they are using depositors' money. Regulatory requirements require to protect the depositors' money. So it's a fair justification. So the government has taken the initiative to come in and to take that risk. So we at SDFC are trying to facilitate this by providing concessional finance to SMEs. So one of the things we have done is we provide loans up to 1 million without a security, because the lending in the Maldives is primarily based on collateralized lending, except for personal loans. So each loan is backed by a security. We have difficulty in providing housing for the whole country. So how can SMEs provide a security for their small business? So this needs to be tackled. So we are taking that risk. We are providing loans up to 1 million without any security. The next issue is getting startup funding. Banks do finance startup funding, but on the strength of their owners, their shareholders. This is very difficult for SMEs. They don't have that capacity. So we have to review the process. We have to identify the feasibility of the project instead of going to the shareholders before we make the decision. So I think that's something we have done. We are providing startup funding. Out of our portfolio, half of the projects we have funded are for startups or newly started businesses. The third issue is that financial literacy is low in the country, and it's an ongoing challenge we have to face. We have seen that it is difficult for bankers or financial institutions to make a decision without having the full knowledge of the requirement of the borrower. SMEs don't have access to maintain their financials in a regular manner, so they are unable to provide audited financial statements or even management accounts. Then what we have to see is what are the alternative sources that we can rely on. That is also unavailable in the country or limited, because data sharing is not something that is new in the country. Everyone is very protective of the information they have. So if we don't have proper information of the customer or alternative ways of getting that information, we are unable to fund the customer. People always say in US or any other parts of the world, they get loans fairly easy because they have alternative source of information, which we don't. So I think one of the things that can be done by the financial sector or the policymakers is collaborative effort in sharing the data. The banks, for example, have a KYC process. I think everyone is familiar with that. And simply because your identification has expired, you are required to update your KYC. And most of the people maintain bank accounts in more than one bank. So once ID has expired, you will go to BML, you will go to MIB to update their KYC. But I think this is not necessary. If we have a central KYC process, this would be easier for SMEs to survive and do business, and it will fasten the evaluation process. But I think I will shorten my speech for now. All right.
No, if you have more, please go ahead. Because
no, I think it's fine.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, Zeenadh. I think you have highlighted very important issues in obtaining data. If the data is available at a central source, for example, through the tax authority or any other authorities that collect data, I think it would be very helpful for these SMEs who don't have the resources to necessarily to prepare the documents and to obtain these finances. And I think we have a full house of accountants and auditors who can play an active role in, in the financial literacy part that Zeenadh has just highlighted. My third question is to Reesha. You are a very successful, innovative entrepreneur who went out and came out with a truly remarkable product. You found a way to package, brand a sweet that is so delicate in its nature, but so dear to our heart. The Addu Bondi and Kanamadumeta. How were you able to come up with something so unique, yet so simple, but no one dared before to try? What would be your advice to our audience who may have similar inspirations to start their own SME?
Well, first of all, I always had the idea of creating a brand. So while I was scrolling from one idea to another, I came to know that Maldives souvenir market had a lot of potential and a lot of demand for Maldivian-made products. So I started researching this market, and I found that almost all the products were imported from overseas. All the products were very well designed, very well packed, and very well labeled. So, but, but within these products, I also noticed that um, there was not there was not a product that represent our traditional Maldivian cuisines packed in a modern way. So that is when I got the idea of creating a brand which will represent our traditional cuisines, which is packed more presently. So that's when I started educating myself about traditional cuisines and how it is packed and how I can label it. So regardless of how much capital or finance I had at that time to go through the process and to develop the product, and also regardless of what uh, people might think or how they would value and appreciate the product, I started developing the product, and around 2019, 2018, by end of 2018, I was able to launch the product. And at that time, I was selling to a very few souvenir shops in the resorts, and slowly the demand was starting to increase. In 2020, that is when I got the opportunity to display and sell my products in authentic Maldives outlets. So like overnight, my sales started to increase. So I have to find a way to increase my productivity in a very short period of time. Back then, I was in a full-time job, and I was taking care of a 4-year-old. So it became a really big challenge for me to find a way to increase my productivity. Um, and from that time onwards, we have been trying to invest more in terms of getting more equipments and workspace in order to increase our production capacity. And for the last part, what would be the advice I would like to give? If there are others who wish to make a product and sell, just start at some point. Don't think about how big you will get in how fast, how big you will get, but start at some point and just continue with the supply, because if you keep on going, there will be a point where your demand will increase.
Truly remarkable story. And we need SME entrepreneurs like Reesha if we are to transform our economy to the next level. We need more individual entrepreneurs. So I would like to request a huge round of applause to Reesha. Thank you. As our report highlighted, SME faces numerous challenges. I would like to ask Ms. Fazleena, statistically speaking, 20% of all SMEs fail in the first year. 40% fail in the second or third year. I personally believe failure is not something that we should be afraid of, and it is worth the risk. However, no one would wish for their SME to be in that 40% failure category. In order to be more resilient, successful, thriving SMEs, what are the skills that the future SMEs need to harness and build on?
Thank you. Before I move on to your question, since we just moved from Ms. Reesha's work here, I would like to highlight that Authentic Maldives holds 180 local brands. Currently, it houses 180 local brands, which is selling to international markets. I think that is success of the current administration for having revived BCC and having created SDFC. And to say more about that, we have actually dispersed 32.9 million rupiah to these small suppliers. And I think that also caters to the development of our SMEs. While we actually have to understand the fact that we actually went through a very hard time during the COVID crisis. It was very unexpected. It was a shock to everyone. If the big, larger businesses were not ready for a situation like this, just imagine the fate of these small businesses. So during that time, Authentic Maldives actually came into being and was able to help these small SMEs by actually dispersing this amount of money as their income. And I think, Reesha, you have moved from being, I think you're currently dedicating your full time to doing your business right now. And also her daughter is also a supplier at Authentic Maldives. This shows our passion to actually building entrepreneurs in this country at a very young age. She is one of the most sought out entrepreneur in our shop, I think. How old is she, Reesha? She's 9, yes. She was 8 when she came as a supplier. And I hope all of you who are here would be a patron to our work at Authentic Maldives. Do not purchase any souvenir items elsewhere, please. Do. I'm promoting Authentic Maldives right now, yes. And coming back to Mr. Faris' question before I ran out on time, yes, they fail because small SMEs, they fail because of many reasons. One that I would like to speak about, because this is an auditors forum, shall we talk about the risks management of these small businesses? They do not have risk management trainings. They do not understand what are the risks that comes towards them during the journey of their business. Initially at the startup, they do a small research and development and then just come out. Mostly when we look into our market, when we look at MAF2022, for example, we have a lot of copycat entrepreneurs. Just because somebody else is doing something, they think, okay, this is a good idea. Even if we are catering for a segment, a population of 100 people in an island, and if there is a medical center working there, and it is doing good business, should I just stand up and go and start a business catering just like that? A health center? Why don't I actually work towards giving a complimentary service? So this is what is happening to most of our SMEs. They do a research and development at the beginning, or they see a successful entrepreneur and they follow path. However, I think we need all the accountants and the auditors here to actually run risk management and business continuity trainings for our SMEs. So we do not actually have those 40% in our national economy of failed businesses. Yes, BCC will do its part, but can we all get together and do this literacy and financial literacy for all our SMEs, and then when we look into our homes, our households, shall we also start doing it at a very early age, educating our children? For example, I would really wish if I was a good public speaker to get, when I got the position to represent BCC. Yeah, similar to that, every SME, a business entrepreneur would really wish that they were good business managers. These two things are two different things. You can be a good entrepreneur, but at the same time, you might not be a good business manager. So shall we all work towards actually having all these SMEs which are functioning in our economy be successful by giving them enough trainings on risk management and business continuity. I think business continuity was an issue during our COVID crisis. A lot of businesses failed because they did not have a continuity plan. They didn't move towards using technologies because they are not very savvy to these things, or rather they really want to stay small doing what they are very comfortable at. So I think this is a very relevant topic here at the Accountants Forum, and I believe all of you who are here would partner with BCC in educating our SMEs in risk management and other areas of financial literacy like Mr. Zeenadh mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, as you have rightly mentioned, the accountants have a large role to play in that part in regards to preparation of feasibility studies, business plans, and so many ways that we could contribute to the SME sector. And SME is very important for the development of economy. I can't stress enough how important it is because they provide majority of the employment in any country, the SMEs. And also, they contribute to the social and economic development again. Moving to Zeenadh, SDFC played, and Fazleena has also mentioned about the COVID times. SDFC played a massive role during the COVID times. And it would not be wrong to say that it single-handedly kept the vast majority of SMEs afloat during the COVID time, which was a very terrible time for a lot of us because we could not pay the rent or we were having difficulties paying salaries even. Looking back from a banking perspective, how successful have you been with your initiative to support the SME sector during the pandemic, and how has those businesses fared post-pandemic?
Yeah, I think a very important question. During the pandemic, we were able to support 1,400 businesses with the assistance of the government through COVID VFRAE loan scheme. We were able to disperse over 370 million to SMEs. In addition to that, we supported 600 self-employed businesses. To further ease their processes during the recovery period, Ministry of Finance and with their support, we have given 12 months grace period without any payment. So during that payment, it was vital to give that support because they needed the cash flow to start their operations. So I think what we have noticed was it was difficult for them to pay during the pandemic and during the recovery period. But what we have identified is that some of the businesses have come for additional funding in later last year and this year. What we noticed was their situation has improved. They were not able to, they didn't shut down their business. They continued with the assistance, and we were able to give further assistance to these businesses through additional facilities from STFC. I think that would answer your question, because since the time is...
Yeah, I think our time is coming to a close as well. So my next question is to Reesha. SMEs face a lot of challenges, as highlighted in our video as well. I'm sure you have faced your fair share of challenges as an SME entrepreneur. Please help share with our audience the challenges that you faced and the challenges that you envisage for the SME, as an SME entrepreneur going forward.
In my point of view and what I have experienced through my journey is, when we always talk about a startup, we always talk about the finance they need or the willingness or the motivation. But in my point of view, there is a huge lack of opportunity in selling their products and giving their services. Because it's a very good example I saw through this whole process is when BCC opened their outlets. A lot of young entrepreneurs were able to come up with a lot of great ideas, and the packaging was really good, regardless of how much financing they had. So I think likewise, there is a lack of opportunity in the retail market and in the service sector too. And also, as Zeenath has mentioned, when we start to grow, um, when we are looking for financing, since we are all not, we don't have a very good background in accounting, we face the issue of applying to a loan, and we don't even know how to go through the process even. So that also becomes a challenge. And also, when we, as we are investing so much into machinery and workspace, since Maldives is a very small population and most of our products are imported from overseas, there will come a time that there is a limit to the amount of products that can be sold in this market. So I think in the near future, there will be a need to export our market to the international community as well.
Thank you, Reesha. I think our time is almost up. Before closing our panel discussion, I would like to ask each panelist, there are still regulatory reforms that can be done to help the SME sector. So in your view, under less than a minute, can you just give us your views of regulatory reforms that could possibly help the SME sector?
I think since our time is up, if I start on all the regulatory reforms that we have to do, we might spend the whole day here. But then there are some of the areas where there are bureaucratic layers and let's say all those regulations which hinder, let me not name these, but all those regulations that hinder competition in the market for small businesses, I think those need to be reformed, because if large businesses start doing businesses that already is a market for small businesses, I think that is a hindrance for these small businesses to grow and become the next large corporation. Because I think from our experience, small businesses function in those smaller areas, let's say support services or logistics, and if we have to, if there is huge competition for these smaller businesses in these areas, I think that will hinder these small businesses from growing. So any kind of those regulatory frameworks that has been framed in such a way that competition is not fostered in the market, I think those needs to be revamped. Thank you.
I think there are three things I would like to highlight here. The first thing is Secure Transaction Registry, which is something that has been there for a decade, I would say. It would enable for us, for the banks, to have their, to take movable assets as security, because it will have a centralized registry that would have their, that they can register their interest on the security. So I think that would help the commercial banks. The other thing I would like to highlight is a centralized KYC process, which I touched upon earlier. And the third thing is, I think the collaboration and the financial literacy. I think CM all this and the accountants community can play a role in improving financial literacy. Perhaps a guide for SMEs in maintaining their books would help. I think those three things. Thank you, Faris.
I think we lack we need a very good copyright policy or framework to protect our products, and also as there is many people are making new products these days, and we are investing so much into these products. I think there need to be a leniency in the GST or income tax that we are paying. So I think that will enable us to refinance that money and grow the production.
Thank you all for those sharing your experiences and taking your time and joining for this panel discussion. If you have any question from the audience, I think we can take one or two questions. I think we have touched all areas, so I think that concludes our session for today. There's one. Sorry, there's one question on the screen. A question for Mr. Ahmed Zeenadh. What's the current non-performing assets ratio?
Yeah, as per audit of 2021, it was 20%, and industry average is for the world is between 15 and 25%. And if we consider the SME segment in isolation of the banks, it would be much worse. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Panelists, please remain on the stage for a minute. I would like to request CEA Maldives Council member Mr. Mohamed to present the panelists with a token of appreciation. Ms. Fazleena. Mr. Zeenadh. Ms. Reesha. And Mr. Faris. Thank you, Mr. Azad. Thank you, panelists.